can I have a quick word? Listen, I don't think the car is hitting its performance targets right now. We really do have to find a lot of improvement. We really do have to find a lot of improvement. We really do have to find a lot of improvement.
I'm sorry. We are meant to... You're the engineer. You're meant to be finding the solutions to the car, mate.
Take a look at the report and we'll talk about it later, okay?
It's time to go! Get him up, fam. Get him up, blood.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode, episode number 55 today for the Malaysian Grand Prix in Season 3, and we start things off there with Chris once again, just bringing just unnecessary negativity to the team. Yes, we had a bad timeout last time after the patch. We've gone down a step in performance relative to the Force India team, but I don't think our car is really too bad. We just got very, very unlucky last time out at Singapore. If you have missed that one, by the way, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Yeah, obviously a disaster race weekend at Singapore, really. We need to bounce back here. Obviously, we're 33 points now behind Sebastian Vettel in the championship. Generally, you guys seem very, very positive, and I was very thankful for that in terms of the amount of positivity and support you guys are feeling at the moment in terms of our chances still. So we're going to continue on, and you know me, we'll battle down to the wire, and we'll see what we can do and pray, as I said at the end of last episode, for a bit of a miracle in these last remaining episodes. Of course, only 5 rounds left, but a bit of bad luck in practice. You can see a bit of a dramatic crash there. I was pushing the car to the limit, but all in all, not too bad. Got the full points there during the practice programs. With only 5 races left, we're still pushing very hard for the development. We can get final few little bits of maybe development on the engine, perhaps, or the aerodynamics that only cost 1,000 points. So we'll keep on pushing right to the end. But of course, we've got 2 major upgrades coming very soon in the next 2 episodes for the Japanese and USA Grand Prix. So looking forward to those. But we move swiftly then into Q1. You can see it's raining in Q1. It's actually going to get dry for Q2 and Q3, so it'll be a bit of a difference in terms of the way we've gone for setup. The race is going to be, well, it's looking like pretty much soaking, so I've gone for more of a downforce heavy setup here. But you can see on the top left, we've got Romain Grosjean, who set a lap time on super soft tyres, and I'm going out. It's still damp enough for the car to be performing quite badly on intermediates, but then I've got this Ferrari car of Raikkonen going down my inside on super soft, and that got me hugely confused. We come across the line, we're in P8 at the moment, so I thought to myself that was still a pretty damn good lap time. But then we move on to the end of the session. I had no time to go out again on the super softs like everyone else apparently did, and we've been knocked out in Q1, and my teammate Nico Hulkenberg got P1 in that Q1 session, but I really don't know what on earth went on. The only saving grace for us is Sebastian Vettel has also been knocked out for us. I mean, Danica Fiat went out on full wet tyres at the start of that session, so I really don't know what's gone on there for myself and Sebastian and Daniel, but you saw there, I was towards the end of the session, only about 3 minutes left, and it was still visually and felt like it was damp enough for intermediate. So a huge head scratcher, but also a huge spanner in the works for not only us but Sebastian Vettel now, as both of us got knocked out of Q1. So I was asking for a bit of a miracle. I would have obviously liked to have got through to Q2 and then Q3 along with my teammate Nico Hulkenberg to capitalise on the fact Vettel made the same mistake, but that's what I mean, he made the same mistake, so unfortunately we're down there with him, and it's going to be a battle of who can get up the furthest, really. I'm confident, I'm pretty actually confident against Sebastian Vettel. I can probably get further up than he can, at least in the opening few laps, and then we'll have to see how the car performs. But you can see soaking at the start of this race, so it's going to be full intermediates at the beginning at least, and then we'll see if it's going to dry out later on in this race. So I'm not too sure if that helped us or not. At Singapore, obviously we struggled in intermediate conditions, but this is a very different circuit. The setup wise, I've gone for a bit more of downforce because I knew it was going to start raining here, and Malaysia anyway is quite a high speed circuit, so I'm kind of liking our chances that we can get up the order. It's just about how far Sebastian does, of course, but we'll move on to the full grid sequence then, and then we'll get into this race.
So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Massa, Esteban Ocon, and Hamilton, Perez, Sainz, Magnussen, and Lance Stroll, Hulkenberg, Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso, and Wehrlein, Van Dorn, Ericsson, Romain Grosjean, and Sebastian Vettel. A Renault and Daniel Fiat completes the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So here we are on the last row of the grid then, P19, and you can see it's going to be raining for the entire race. So I'm not too sure if that's unfortunately or fortunately at the moment. I just don't know what the pace will be like. But we're going to start on the intermediate, and it's going to be a two-stop race. At least that's what the default's saying. I have a hunch we maybe could pull off a bit of a cheeky one-stop. We'll have to see how the tyre wear is and how I'm feeling, you know, in the middle of this race. But, you know, for now, we'll just focus on the start here, and we have to try and get the best getaway we can. You can see Sebastian Vettel there to our left-hand side in P18 as we go to 5 red lights then to the Malaysian Grand Prix, and this could be a very, very important race for the Drivers' World Championship as both myself and Vettel get underway from P18 and P19 on our grid slots, and we're going towards turn 1. Bit of a longer run due to us starting so much further back. We're going on the right-hand side. Vettel's going to get caught up a little bit with that train on the left as we've gone down the inside of 3 cars. Very cautious actually on the brakes, that maybe I could have gone, but I just wasn't too sure how the car was going to react under the heavy load on the inters. But we go round the outside then of Romain Grosjean, and now we're looking at the back of Fernando Alonso. We're actually finding some good traction on the wider line as you may actually expect, and Sainz and Stroll go wheel to wheels. We're on the left hand side. We've just about nipped past Alonso, and then last minute we just managed to actually just shimmy the car out of the path of Sainz. Sainz going very slowly in the second phase of that braking point as we go into the high-speed section down the inside of Lance Stroll. Very, very close stuff, at the same place where him and Vettel made contact post-race in the real-life Malaysian Grand Prix in 2017, and we just managed to nip past him. And now we're looking at the back of Kevin Magnussen's car, and from what I can see, Sebastian Vettel really hasn't made much of a getaway, really. I think he's still behind Stoffel Van Dorn, the second McLaren, and he's still got to pass Alonso, and then onto the 2 Toro Rosso cars and the Williams we just passed there of Lance Stroll. So, as I mentioned, I was very confident we could make a much better start than Sebastian, and now that start may not even be over, because we're having a look now as I dare to go down the inside of Kevin Magnussen to maybe make one more pass on this opening lap of a very wet Malaysian Grand Prix. We go toe-to-toe with Magnussen round the outside. This next left-hander is going to be very tricky, but it will turn to the inside for the next one, and then we come to one of the trickiest corners in Formula 1 in the dry, let alone the wet. Very off camber, very, very tricky to keep it through, especially in a lower down car with not as much downforce as maybe the likes of the Ferrari and the Mercedes car, but we do get it past Magnussen then in a straight line, power past him, and we're up the order. Obviously the drag reduction and the upgrades we've done to that side of the car helping out there, power past the Ferrari powered Haas. So now the next car along is actually going to be Kimi Raikkonen, because both Kimi and I think it was Hamilton, if I remember correctly from the grid sequence, had penalties for engines, so both of them down the order, and that's really helped us capitalise now, because we may be able to overtake them, and I didn't think I would be overtaking these cars for a long time so in this Grand Prix. But we're going to take a look at a replay now of our teammate Nico Hülkenberg, who's also down the order due to some penalties, I think it was, and so he's going to go down the inside of Kevin Magnussen himself into turn 1 this is, obviously, and you can see up ahead it's Bottas who's fighting a Red Bull car side by side for the lead this Grand Prix. Hamilton actually looks like he didn't get any penalties, looks like he was just a little bit slow in qualifying then, my bad, but Hülkenberg is actually going to challenge Hamilton, so maybe this is why Hamilton was down in the order. Maybe Hülkenberg was a little bit mean to him into the first sector, the end of the first sector, and shoved him off to make this pass done as he's down the inside, and actually he's going to make a very late move and a bit of an unintentional move on Felipe Massa there as he locked up quite badly on the left front, but he just made it work. And Nico, really impressive stuff and very, very good driving to get up into what I think this will be P5 as he's behind the 2 Force India cars, the 2 Red Bulls, and then Valtteri Bottas, so he'll be up into P6, that would be, so really good stuff for him. And the 2 Red Bull cars looked very punchy, just like in the real-life Malaysian Grand Prix, to maybe attack Valtteri Bottas as now we move on to lap 3 on the back of Kimi Raikkonen, so he's being held up by Hamilton and the cars ahead of him, which includes the Toro Rosso car, I think. Yellow flags though, up ahead. Oh, there's been a huge crash though between the 2 Red Bull cars, and we only just narrowly missed out on hitting Max Verstappen there as the virtual safety car is called out. So Ricciardo and Verstappen have come towards, they're probably you know, both eager to maybe catch Valtteri Bottas, so perhaps they tangled over each other as they fought for the lead. Perhaps let's see, look at this replay camera. So Ricciardo actually in second place, nowhere near Bottas at this stage. He just goes a little bit wide, and then oh, that's just so unlucky. Verstappen gets tangled, and then the Force Indias also come into wars there, and Hülkenberg goes down the inside of one of the Force Indias. You can see there, I just narrowly weave out the way. I was very last minute to weave out the way because I honestly just didn't clock that Verstappen was there sideways on the track, so that could have been quite nasty for myself. But they're very unfortunate on board with Verstappen. Just Ricciardo gets sent wide, he's coming back onto the track in a very awkward position, and Verstappen just can't do anything to stop himself from hitting him. He goes sideways, and then that unfortunately means Ocon gets collected, and then also Sergio Perez, I believe, also gets tangled in that. Bit of a domino effect. Yep, yeah, he loses a bit of his front wing, not too bad for Perez. and a little bit worse off for Ocon there. And then Hulkenberg, the cheeky guy, goes down the inside of Perez before the virtual safety car comes out. So he's in a bit of a Force India sandwich there. But very, very unlucky situation for the two Red Bull Racing cars, as they looked very good to maybe be challenging for the win this race. But of course they brought it on themselves, or more like Daniel Ricciardo brought it on themselves by going wide, and then Verstappen unable to control it there. As now two cars come to the pit lane. I think that was both Esteban Ocon and then Sergio Perez and into pit. So we are elevated up into P6 then, gifted those two positions. So with Red Bull's misfortune, that's our fortune, as we've gained so many positions there. We've gained 4 free positions, and now 5 as Massa is gone wide into turn 1. Looks like he was flustered by Hamilton right up his chuff, and so we're up into P5 now. Raikkonen P4, it's Hamilton P3. Nico Hulkenberg now finds himself in P2 of this Grand Prix, the one immediately after Valtteri Bottas, who still leads this race after all the madness. And now we make a darting move to maybe catch Raikkonen off guard. Bit of a wishful move and wishful thinking from me, as it doesn't work out, and we keep position in P5, and Raikkonen stays cool as ever, as his nickname may suggest, being the Iceman there. So, but really, really good fortune. I'm not going to lie, we have got massively lucky in this race. You know, lap 1 was lucky enough for us to gain so many positions like that, and now we've gained 5 free positions. So, you know, it's pretty much been the exact opposite of what Singapore was, you got to say. And this is the man that we are trying to beat and outscore this race. At the moment, he finds himself behind a Williams car and didn't fancy fighting him for too long, so he comes in for a bit of an earlier pit stop. Remember, the default strategy is a 2-stop this afternoon, so Vettel fancies a bit of an earlier undercut strategy there, as we now move on to lap 10, a few laps later from where we were. Now Raikkonen is pulling over, and looks like he's retiring out of this Grand Prix. Yes, he is. He's out of this Grand Prix, and that is more great luck for us. How do you like this? At the Malaysian Grand Prix now, we've gained now 6 free positions, adding on to the positions we already gained on lap 1. The racing gods are looking down upon us this race, guys. They're making amends for what happened at the Singapore Grand Prix, where we got shafted by that annoying glitch with the safety car. And so now, as we move on through the laps, Valtteri Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg will now pit for their first pit stop of the Grand Prix, from 1st and 2nd place in the Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg doing a fabulous job, actually, to be that close still to Bottas. So it looks like the car, our Renault car, is performing pretty damn well still in this race. So now we move on to lap 11, and this is our POV, is obviously these two in the pit lane now. So we're up into 1st place now of the Grand Prix, as Hamilton has also come in earlier. And so now, this is my thinking. I mentioned we may try a cheeky 1-stop, and that's exactly what we're going to aim for, because on lap 11, my tyres aren't feeling too bad. So if we can stretch them to lap 14, that's halfway through the Grand Prix, and then it's just 50-50. We may as well just make 1 stop and then go the other 50% of the race on another set of inters. So we're going to try the 1-stop, and I think that's going to be our best shot of trying to maybe challenge Valtteri Bottas and indeed our teammate Nico Hulkenberg for 1st or 2nd place. Either way, that should confidently get us ahead of Lewis Hamilton for 3rd place, but of course, we'll try our best with track position maybe, as of course Bottas and Nico Hulkenberg will probably make another pit stop, as the AI usually stick to the default, so they'll probably be doing a 2-stop. So if we can get that track position, we may be in a really good position in this race to maybe at least try something, at least get on the podium and be well ahead of Vettel on points. Of course, we need to try and get as many points as we can, outscoring Vettel. And Vettel, though, you saw there, he overtook the Haas, so he was up into P7 now, and he'll get up into P6, this will be, as Verstappen finally comes in for his pit stop. Of course, Verstappen was going a little bit slowly anyway, and he's been a bit delayed with his first pit stop there after his spin, but that's Vettel up into P6 then of this Grand Prix. We're in P1 at the moment, of course, now, as Bottas and Hulkenberg have made their stop. We've got Carlos Sainz disqualified out of this race. Yellow flags here. I can't see where his car is. There it is. He's been disqualified, so we can't see him on the mini-map there, but we make a little bit of contact as we get a little bit close, because that's where the racing line goes naturally. So Carlos Sainz, for some strange reason, beached his car there a little bit and has been disqualified for it. But anyways, for us, we're going to soldier on in 1st place and basically just try and stretch this to lap 14. And indeed, as we cut on to the end of lap 14, that's exactly what we've done. So really perfect stuff for us in terms of the strategy being exactly how I wanted and was picturing it after we got into 1st place. I wanted to get to this point where we're exactly halfway through the 28 laps now. So in theory, you know, the tyres haven't really felt too bad on this at the end of this stint. So this should exactly be a just duplicate stint for us next time out. Of course, the difference is obviously we will have Bottas, the likes of Hülkenberg, and I imagine Hamilton at some point right up our chuff, maybe trying to attack us as they'll be on a fresher two-stop. And of course, Bottas and Hamilton, you would imagine, would have the pace over us. But actually, I would include my teammate Hülkenberg in that, because he's been setting some decent lap times, and he's been keeping up with Bottas still in this Grand Prix as I've looked through the indicators on the actual gaps, the delta time gaps. So I actually have some competition here for a long time now in the same piece of machinery. Nico Hülkenberg is actually out driving me at the moment in this Grand Prix, so I'm just having to do the one stop just to try and maybe get ahead of him as well in this Grand Prix, not only the two Mercedes cars. But anyway, we've got one of the Force Indies now into the pit, so that will allow Vettel to get one more position, and indeed also Felipe Massa there as he goes into turn 1. But there further back down the road is Vettel going into turn 1, getting one more position there, and he will try and overtake Felipe Massa now around the outside here into the last corner. A bit of an unorthodox place to make a move around the outside, but he's going to get the traction, and so this is Vettel still very determined to get up the order and charging in the middle of this race. As we move later into the Grand Prix, he's going to be coming in at the same time as one of the Haas cars there, and as he comes out the pit lane now, he's going to be met with a bit of traffic. The same can be said for the Haas and also Massa's Williams cars. You can see around the outside goes the McLaren indeed, of also Stoffel Van Dorn, but also the other Williams car, the other Haas, and also one of the Force Indy cars. But Vettel now finds himself right back behind Stoffel Van Dorn, so I believe now he's back outside the points now after his second pit stop. So that early pit stop maybe has not worked out as he wanted to. He's kind of he's found clean air initially, but now he's kind of found traffic once again, and he tried to go around the outside of Van Dorn, and Van Dorn actually parks the bus, and that's going to be really good for us. This is great for us to see, obviously, as Vettel, the more he gets held up, the better of a chance it is that he's not going to get the positions into the points, and you know, the further down he can finish in this race, the better for us if we're going to finish up near the podium position, I would say. And so eventually though, Vettel, you would imagine, does get it down the inside of Van Dorn into sector 3 and is up that position, and now he'll waste no time to get on the back of the Haas team. Obviously the Haas may not put up too much of a fight. Obviously they're supplied by Ferrari, so you would think there would be kind of just an implied kind of sincerity to maybe the Works Ferrari team, but not so at the moment there. I believe it may be Kevin Magnussen Vettel's trying to overtake, and we know how aggressive Magnussen can be with defending his position. But here he goes in the slipstream then with the better straight line speed of that Ferrari car down the inside, and behind them the Red Bull car of Max Verstappen trying to make his way up the order, trying to overtake Stoffel Van Dorn at turn 1. So plenty of action here in the quote-unquote midfield pack. Of course, Vettel, not a midfield car, but he's in the midfield. He finds himself in the midfield, and now he goes to try and overtake the other Haas around the outside again. So Vettel's really liking these outside passes of the final corner. Very, as I said, very weird place to make a pass around the outside, but he's finding the groove and finding the traction there, so each to their own. As we now move on to lap 18, so with 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, still in 4th place now after we made our first and only pit stop this afternoon. But now you can see on the mini-map there, Hamilton is into the pit, so we're going to gain one position there up into P3. So as I mentioned, pretty much slam dunk guarantee that we are going to overtake Hamilton, but this is the pass that we are looking to as we move on to lap 20 then, with 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix. The sun is just about peaking out here, so I don't know, maybe there's going to be a bit of a dry period just about through to the final laps here, but this is the overtake that I'm looking for. Here we go, past Bottas, past Hülkenberg, and we're up into first place. A little bit opposite lock into turn 1 as the rear snaps out a tad, but that is us up into first place. Bottas P2, Hülkenberg still in a brilliant P3, and Hamilton in P4. As we move on to the end of lap 22 though, as I mentioned, we may have to do some defending, as you would imagine Bottas is going to try and overtake us and re-overtake for the lead of this Grand Prix. And as we move on to lap 23, that's exactly what he's going to try in a straight line. Obviously no DRS, just pure slipstream, but he's going to try it. We're going to defend to the inside of this line. He's going to have the advantage of having a bit more speed with his slipstream, so he manages to outbrake us completely. Actually, in the second phase of the braking then, it's when I can claw back some time. A little bit of a contact made with his side pod there from the left front tyre, but we managed to hang it around the outside of the second turn then to just keep ahead of him there. He's still though right up our gearbox, so you saw there we got on the curbing a tad on the exit, so that didn't help our traction. And as we go down this other straight towards the end of sector 1, we go defensive, and Bottas really finds some good braking here. I've locked up on the front right, and Bottas somehow just manages to feed it around the outside. He's side by side with us momentarily, but then he has to tuck in as we go into the high-speed section. We're a little bit wide, but it's going to be no use for us, for him at least I should say, as it's very difficult to try and feed it around in the dry, let alone in these intermediate conditions. And now we move back to an onboard of Sebastian Vettel, so we've seen a lot of overtaking and action for Sebastian Vettel, and of course it's been a bit more of a kind of standard strategy race for us, so that's why I'm showing so much of Sebastian Vettel, because it is a very crucial fight of course for the Drivers' World Championship. It's just me and him at the moment locked in being in 1 and 2 in the championship, so that's why I've showed so much of him, and I may as well do is really for the rest of this race now, it's a case of us just defending and trying our best to stay ahead. And I say defending, really, Bottas just didn't really make too much of a fight against us. You know, you can see there, we kind of used Ricciardo to kind of pin him down a little bit, and Hülkenberg remains in P3, and it's a bit of a checkerboard pattern there of Renault, Mercedes, for pretty much the rest of this race as we move now to the final lap of the Grand Prix through the final corner. And I can't believe I'm quite saying this, from P19 to first place at the Malaysian Grand Prix. It's a win for us today, and it's another double podium for the Renault team. We match what we did at Canada. It's a 1-3 for Renault. Myself and Hülkenberg, get in there. That is a great Grand Prix. This has been a fantastic race for us. Vettel is going to come home in, I think, what is in the end P5, I think. So that's still 10 points. So to 25, that's going to be a 15-point gain on him in the championship. He was 33 points behind, so that's still going to be a pretty big 18 points that he's going to have on us. But I think we couldn't have hoped for any more in this race, you know, intermediate, so we just had that worry that maybe we wouldn't perform. But this Renault car has come alive in these conditions around Malaysia. You saw the pace Hülkenberg had there as well to keep in P3 ahead of Hamilton, and for us to come home in 1 and 3 is absolutely fabulous, and that makes up for what a dismal race we had at Singapore. To come out for a win is just amazing. Our third win of this season is just incredible. Incredible stuff, guys. So smash that like button, guys. It'd be absolutely awesome. We'll try and get over 3,000 likes for our third win of this season. That is great. And there you go. Confirmation there. 18 points behind Sebastian Vettel, like I said, with the 10 and 25 point difference. So that's still quite a bit there. But, of course, this win helps towards the spirit of the team, the spirit of myself, my mindset going into these last 4 races now. Now I'm a little bit more confident we could maybe try and start to bring this back. It's still going to be a challenge with 18 points, but now I feel a bit more confident we can do it. And obviously we've got, you can see there, those 3 upgrades coming our way, the 2 majors at the Japanese and USA Grand Prix. So looking forward to those. Once again, guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, smash that like button. Once again, guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, smash that like button. What an absolute cracker of a race. So much action with the Red Bull cars going out as well, and the crazy kind of crashes we had there, and Raikkonen going out as well. We got very, very lucky, but, you know, sometimes you need that kind of luck in racing, and obviously we got very unlucky last time out with the glitch, so kind of balances out a little bit in my opinion. But let me know what you thought of that Grand Prix in the comments below. And until then, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.